Yes, Dr. Neha, you can.
Yes. Yeah, good evening and welcome to the 1282nd episode of the daily webinars, which are conducted by International Forum for Promoting Homeopathy. Today, our guest is Dr. D. Balachandran. He has already graced his presence on our forum with very many more previous sessions before, and today I would like to give his small intro. He's MD in pediatrics and a senior medical officer with AIMS Patna. He was also the HOD and former professor in HOD of Department of Practice of Medicine in RKDF University, Bhopal. The today's topic for his presentation is importance of biochemic medicines in homeopathic practice. Although biochemic medicines have to have a controversial place in homeopathy, but they are widely used by many homeopaths. And today, Dr. D. Balachandran will be briefing us about how these medicine work and how these medicines are used in homeopathy and what's their mode of working. So we welcome Dr. D. Balachandran, sir, here. Welcome,
Thank you,
sir.
ma'am.
You can start the session, sir.
Yes. Would there be a minute of silence before starting the session?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. There's a minute of silence, sir. We can
Yes.
have a minute of silence, all of you. Yes. Yes, sir. Now you can start the session, sir, please.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Neha Kakkar, for a brief introduction about me. And good evening to all the participants of today's IFPH webinar. Today's topic is regarding the importance of biochemic medicines in practice. So although these topics seems to be familiar with a few or most of you all, I hope many of the practitioners here would be practicing on biochemic medicine, but this is just an introduction regarding what is a biochemic medicine, the way in which how we prescribe them, and is it homeopathy or is it something else? So all these questions will be answered in this session. So before we begin, I would like to share my screen. Kindly give an approval if you can able to see the screen and if my voice is audible to all. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Everything fine, sir. You can go ahead.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. Yes. So this will be on two parts. As in last session, I could not be able to complete my presentation in one session. So I have split the session in such a way that this will be part one of Introduction to Biochemic Medicines. And the part two will be a detailed discussion about the medicines proper. Now, this would be just an introduction to the biochemic medicines. And you'll be wondering, there are certain slides which I've included in this session, which was not there in the previous session in Hindi, which I took on 2nd of March. That was regarding what is molecular motion, what are atoms, what are molecules. Although these are basics, we have studied this in physics, but I just want to brush up your mind regarding what is an atom, what is a molecule, and what is this molecular motion and how this molecular motion is getting disturbed, because that is the main pathogenesis of diseases according to the biochemical system of medicine. So before we get into that, I would like to brush up your mind regarding some basic physical facts. If you are well versed with this, you can kindly ignore it. Or if you want to brush up, you're always welcome to relearn again and again, right? So first would be, what is an atom and what is a molecule? I hope many of you know the definition of what an atom is and what a molecule is. Atom is called the basic building blocks of matter, and it is the smallest constituent unit of matter that possesses the properties of the chemical element. So every element, when you break down, the most basic building blocks, what you get is an atom. So when you break any compound, when you break any substance, when you break any element, final particle after which you cannot able to progress, that is the atom. Okay, and that is the basic building blocks of matter. Okay, and this atom, if you see it, the structure of an atom, the atom consists of a nucleus in the center, and this nucleus is surrounded by many orbits, and these orbits have the arbitrary rotation or the arbitrary revolution of the electrons, protons, and neutrons. Neutrons are the one which does not carry any charge. Electrons are the one, the subatomic particles, which carries a negative charge, and protons are the one subatomic particles which carries the positive charge. So likewise, there are three charges, subatomic particles, which is revolving or rotating around the nucleus in its axis, in the orbits, and these are called subatomic particles, namely electron carrying a negative charge, proton carrying a positive charge, and neutron which is not having any charge at all. And these orbit around the nucleus in their orbits. So that's about the atom. And next is, what is a molecule? Molecule is nothing but a group of atoms or a collection of two or more atoms which are bound together by covalent bonds. These are chemical bonds. Okay, that is called as a molecule. So a group of atoms which shares its valency, which shares its covalent bonds or chemical bonds together forms a molecule. So I have given here the hydrogen atoms which combines with oxygen atom to form the water molecule. So it is not called water atom because water molecule is a combination of two atoms or two or more atoms of hydrogen with oxygen. So that combines to form, sharing its valency with a covalent bond, you get a water molecule. The beauty here is that hydrogen atom is a gaseous state. Oxygen atom is again a gaseous state. But when they both mix together to form a molecule water, there is a liquid state. So that's the beauty of physics and chemistry, right? So that is about the basics of what is atom and what is molecule. I hope you are clear with that. Shall we go further? Now, you know what an atom is, you know what a molecule is. Now, what you want to learn is what is a molecular motion, right? Now, what is a molecule? Molecule is nothing but a two or more atoms which combines together, bound together by the covalent bond is called as a molecule. Now, these molecules are always in the state of constant motion, rapid motion. They are not in a static state. They are not going to be remaining in one place alone. They keep on traveling from place to places. And this molecular motion may vary depending upon the matter in which the molecule is present. So you already know that there are three states of matter, like solid, liquid, and gaseous state. In solid state, these molecules are tightly packed together so that there cannot be much motion being made by these molecules. So they are in a state of vibratory motion only. There are different types of motion, molecular motion. In solid state, only vibratory motion is possible. Okay, and second state is called the liquid state. In liquid state, as you can see, there are certain spaces which are called intermolecular spaces between them. So there can be some movement possible in the liquid state. That is why liquids can able to take up the shape of any container, because the molecules can rearrange themselves according to the container in which it is going to get filled up, and it takes on the shape of the container. And that's why, because the molecules can rearrange itself. The solid cannot rearrange itself. So solid will be solid at any states. If you're going to take a cube, you're going to place it in a glass, or you're going to place it in a beaker or in a big vessel, the cube will be cube only. It cannot change its shape. But if it is in a liquid form, depending upon the vessel in which you are going to pour it, it can take on that particular shape of the vessel. Why? Because the molecules can rearrange itself. That is why, that means that between the molecules, there are intermolecular spaces and some movement of molecules is possible between them, right? And next, coming to the gaseous state. Like liquid, gaseous state, the intermolecular spaces is very vacant, means there are much spaces between the molecules. So molecules can bombard like anything. There will be molecular motion happening very rapidly and vigorously in a gaseous state. And so just like a liquid, the gas can also take on the shape of a container. Okay, if you are going to have a deodorant spray bottle, this gas can take the shape of the deodorant bottle. If you are going to transfer this gas in a cylinder, and it can take the shape of the cylinder. Likewise, because of intermolecular spaces between the molecules, the gas can also, just like the liquid state, can able to occupy the shape or take the shape of any container in which the gas is being transferred. So what I want to say here is, molecular motion is extensive or vast in the gaseous state because of much intermolecular spaces, and the molecular motion is very limited or very restricted in case of a solid because of tightly packed molecules, and it is intermediate in the liquid state, means more than the solid state and less than the gaseous state. Because of less intermolecular spaces between them, there can be some movement possible, right? So that's about the molecular motion, upon which we are going to differentiate the states of matter, three states of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. Okay, right. And what happens if there is going to be a movement happening between the molecules? If the molecules are getting a movement between them, there is a possibility of collision. Collision means two molecules coming in head contact with each other and bombarding each other. Just like two balls coming in contact with each other, and when they both come in contact with each other, what happens? It bounces back, or it changes its direction. Likewise. So this is called as a collision. It's called head-on collision. So when these molecules are getting bombarded, or when they are going to undergo the molecular motion, okay, what can happen is that the two molecules can come in contact with each other, And just like an elastic rubber ball, it can bounce back to different directions depending upon in which angle it is going to come in contact with each other. Okay, so this is called as the collision. And why these molecules are moving? Molecules are moving because these molecules are having their kinetic energy, their own kinetic energy. And this kinetic energy, because of which the molecules are moving from one part to another part. So this is called as the molecular motion. If you want to just understand this molecular motion, you can do an experiment. This you have done in physics lab itself also. In the morning, nearby your window, if there is a dark atmosphere, you turn off the lights, you take a torch and you just turn on the torch. You can see the molecules distributed in the atmosphere or air moving along the ray of light of the torch. This is called as the Brownian movement. And this is nothing but the movement of the molecules which you can visibly see with the help of a torchlight. Okay, in the dark atmosphere. So this is called a Brownian movement. So there are movements happening around us which we are unaware of. Okay, and this is appreciated very well when you are going to turn off the lights and when you are going to turn on the torch, and you can just see that these molecules which are dispersed in the atmosphere or air around you is moving, and this is visible through the ray of light. This is called as a Brownian movement. You are clear with this? First, I taught you what is an atom, the structure of an atom. Then I taught you what is a molecule. And now I have told you what are the three states of matter. And there is one more state even that's called the plasma state, which is not of interest now. Okay, let's go with the three states, solid, liquid, and gas. And I taught you what is molecular motion, right? Now let's go further. Let's study some more. Now you want to understand what are the types of the molecular motion. Okay, there are 4 types of molecular motion possible. One is called the translational motion. Second is called the rotational motion. Third is called the vibrational motion. And last is called as the electronic motion. Now, what is translation motion? Translation motion means the molecules can move from one place to another in the same or different directions, but always in the same axis. Means just like a bolt you are tightening around the screw. The bolt around the screw can be twisted either in the clockwise direction or in the anti-clockwise direction, but it's not going to change any axis. So just like that, it is the movement of the rotational motion of the molecules. Okay, I have given the examples even. The axis is in the center, but the rotation can happen in clockwise or anti-clockwise direction. So this is called the translational motion. Second is called the rotational motion. That means the molecules can rotate in and around the axis. Okay, it can rotate itself in and around the axis. Translation means above, down, above, down. Rotational means around the own axis. Just like the planets are orbiting around their own axis, right? Likewise, you have the rotational motion. Third is called the vibrational motion. Means the molecules can vibrate at their mean position. It is common in the solid state of matter. As I told you, in solid state, because the molecules are tightly packed, we don't have space for translational motion or rotational motion. But only one motion is possible in a solid state, which is called the vibrational motion. Means the molecules can vibrate in their own axis, in their own position. It is just jarring movement or jerking movement of the molecules, which can happen in the solid state. Okay. Then the rest is the translation motion, rotational motion, and vibrational motion. All three are possible in liquid as well as in the gaseous state. But in solid state, only one movement is possible among the three. That is only the vibrational motion, right? And last is called electronic motion. Electronic motion means the electrons, which are subatomic particles, can move from one place to another and from one orbit to another orbit. So that is called the electronic motion. And the electronic motion, because which is happening in the molecules, there can happen change in the color of the substances because of the electrons being transferred from one place to another place. So this is called the electronic motion. So you are aware with the 4 motions, right? One is translational motion. That is the movement which is happening from one place to another in the same or different directions, but in the same axis. Next is rotational motion, where the molecules can rotate in their own axis around the axis. Third is vibrational motion, whereby the molecules can vibrate at the mean position, which is common in solid state of matter. And fourth is electronic motion, whereby the electrons can change from one place to another, just like translational motion from one orbit to another orbit. And because of electronic motion, the color of change in the substances is possible. So you are aware of what is a molecular motion types, right? Now coming to molecular motion regarding the human body at the cellular level. Okay, this is regarding the physics part. Now coming to the biology part. Okay, we know that our human body is composed of organ systems. And when you reduce further, you have the organs, and the organs are made up of tissues. A group of tissues forms an organ, of course. And when you go further down, you have the cell, which is the basic building proteins of the body. Okay. you know the structure of an animal cell. The cell is going to have an outer surface called as the plasma membrane or the cell membrane, which is in contact with the interstitial fluid. That is called the external environment or the extracellular fluid. While the inner surface of the plasma membrane or cell membrane is in contact with the internal environment or cytoplasm, which is called the intracellular fluid. So this plasma membrane is acting as a gateway, or it is acting as a interface between the intracellular fluid inside, which is the cytoplasm, and extracellular fluid outside, which is called the interstitial fluid or the external environment. So it is acting as an interface between the two, or the moderator or mediator between the two compartments, intracellular as well as extracellular. So thus the plasma membrane acts as a semi-permeable membrane. Means what semi-permeable means? It allows certain things to pass through. It will not allow certain things to pass. Okay, it is showing partiality. It is not letting every substance to pass or permeate through it. It is allowing only certain substances to pass, whereas it is restricting the remaining substances to go outside. So this is the semi-permeable membrane, just like the fats, proteins, and the albumins especially, and the glucose molecules. These are bigger in size. It will not allow these to escape outside, but it will allow the minerals. It will allow the electrolytes such as sodium, potassium, calcium, likewise, to either penetrate inside or penetrate outside likewise. So it's a semi-permeable membrane. So it controls what enters and what leaves the cell. So here is a figure whereby you can see there's a nucleus of a cell surrounded by cytoplasm, and there's a plasma membrane or cell membrane here, which is acting as an interface between the intercellular fluid or the cytoplasm and the extracellular fluid or the interstitial fluid. Right? So exchange of ions always happens between the cell and the external environment because of the semi-permeability of the cell membrane. So you are clear? This is where the molecular motion happens at the cellular level. Right? Now, you should understand that when there is a movement of the molecules from internal environment to the external environment, or from external environment to the internal environment, there is going to be a transport of these molecules. These are called as transport of molecules. And there are two types of transport. One is called the passive transport. Second is called the active transport. Passive transport means there is no energy dependent transport of molecules. It can freely move from inside to outside without any electrical power or without any usage of ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So that is called the passive transport. Active transport means whenever there is a movement of ions happening between these two environment, there should be ATP powered pumps or the adenosine triphosphate powered pumps. If anything is dependent upon the current or the ATP, then it is called the active transport. If any transport is happening without the aid of ATP, it is called the passive transport. So we have two basic passive transport system in the body at cellular level. One is called the diffusion, second is called the osmosis. So this is where the exchange of ions or the exchange of molecules or the molecular motion is happening, right? So diffusion is the net movement of molecules from an area of high concentration to an area of lower concentration across the concentration gradient. So always this transport of substances occurs or molecules occurs when there is going to be a gradient difference, which is called as the concentration gradient. Okay, concentration gradient means there will be high concentration and there will be low concentration. Okay, and there will be movement of substances happening from high towards the low concentration. So this is if there is a difference in the concentration, high inside, low outside, or high outside, low inside, if there is going to be exchange happening, then that is called as a concentration gradient. Till when this exchange will happen? When it is going to reach an equilibrium, and that equilibrium is called as the dynamic equilibrium. Okay, so this exchange would happen till dynamic equilibrium when the current on both the sides is the charge on both the sides is going to be remaining neutral. Till that time, the exchange will keep on happening. So that is called the dynamic equilibrium, right? So there is a concentration gradient, and if there is a concentration gradient, it means in one environment there will be high concentration and in one environment there will be low concentration. So if there is a movement of molecules happening from area of high concentration towards the area of low concentration across the concentration gradient, it is called as a diffusion. And diffusion will happen till a dynamic equilibrium is reached when there is no concentration gradient between the two areas, right? And second passive transport is called as the osmosis. Osmosis is a specific type of diffusion in which there will be passage of water from area of high water concentration through a semi-permeable membrane to an area of low water concentration till dynamic equilibrium is reached. So it is a type of diffusion only, osmosis. But here the difference is that in both, the commonality is that from high concentration to low concentration, the things are moving, the molecules are moving. But the difference here is that in diffusion, there is no semi-permeable membrane between both, whereas here in osmosis, there is a presence of semi-permeable membrane through which the diffusion is happening. So this is called the osmosis. Clear? So these are the two passive transport. One is a diffusion, second is osmosis, through which the molecular motion or molecular exchange or ionic exchange happens in the body. So you might have heard about the sodium potassium pumps. You might have heard about the sodium chloride symport pump. So all these pumps are functioning on the basis of these transport system. Now, why this transport system is very essential? It is very essential for the exchange of gases. Okay. In lungs, there is purification of blood happening. The oxygen enters, the carbon dioxide leaves. And likewise, when it is going to enter the tissues of the body, there will be exchange again. The oxygen enters inside the tissues and the carbon dioxide is given back again. All these ionic movements happening, or all these gaseous exchanges, all happens because of the passive transport system in the body, right? So it's very, very essential. This is where the molecular motion happens in the body. So that's what I am trying to stress over here, right? Now, what you have to understand is what are the factors that affects the molecular motion. So there are three factors which have an impact upon the molecular motion. One is the heat. If there is going to be increase in the heat, this heat causes increase in the kinetic energy. Remember, this molecular motion is possible because of the presence of kinetic energy inherent inside the molecules. That's what makes the molecule move from here and there. That is responsible for the rapid motion. So when there is going to be, in any circumstances, increase in the heat, then this heat is going to energize the kinetic energy of the molecules. And when kinetic energy of the molecules increase, then what happens? Molecular motion is going to be speeding up, or it is going to be rapid. Okay. And this heat transfer among the constituent molecules increases the kinetic energy, resulting in increased molecular motion. So heat is directly proportional to the kinetic energy of molecules, is directly proportional to the molecular motion. So whenever there is going to be increase in heat, there is going to be increase in the kinetic energy of the molecules. When the kinetic energy of molecule increases, molecular motion increases. So this is the formula for easy remembrance. And it can be expressed by the formula E is equal to KT. E is the energy, K is the Boltzmann constant, and T is the temperature. This is called the Boltzmann equation. Okay, this very clearly states that energy is directly proportional to the temperature, right? And likewise, the opposite of heat, that's cooling. When you are going to cool down, or when there is going to be cooling happening, then the kinetic energy is reduced of the molecules. And when kinetic energy is reduced, the molecular motion is reduced. So cooling reduces the molecular motion, and heat increases the molecular motion. Okay, this can be done in a simple experiment. Take two glass beakers. In one, 500 ml of quantity each. In one beaker, you fill with cold water, ice cold water. In one beaker, you fill with hot water. Take a drop of blue ink and try to put blue ink, 2 drops in both the beakers. You can find that the blue colored ink diffuses very easily in the hot water, but the same blue colored ink will take time to diffuse in the cold water because of this factor. Heat increases the molecular motion. That is why diffusion happens fast. Whereas cooling reduces the molecular motion because of reduced kinetic energy, and that is why diffusion is happening very slowly, right? And third factor which affects the molecular motion is the speed of the molecules. So, okay, speed of the molecule is directly proportional to the molecular motion. If the speed of the molecule is increased, like increasing the heat, then the molecular motion is increased. Okay, and if a molecular motion is increased, what happens? The collisions can happen very fast. And when collision happens, then it can bounce back to any areas. The movement can become erratic. It will not be harmonious. Okay, likewise, if the speed of the molecule is reduced in case of cooling, then the movement will not be happening in a very rapid manner. So there is less chances for collision. Okay, right. So this is the factors which affects the molecular motion. So clear till here? These are the basic physics what you have to understand, right? Now coming to the proper topic of today, that is the history of discovery of tissue remedies by Schussler. Now, how did Dr. Schussler get the idea of discovering this biochemic medicine? So it is not like that he thought about it the other day and the next day he started writing the text upon the biochemic system of medicine or tissue remedies. He had an impulse from several of the stalwarts in homeopathy. The first inspiration for discovery of the tissue remedies of Schussler was from Dr. Hahnemann himself. Okay, It was Dr. Samuel Hahnemann who first perceived the importance of inorganic cell salts as remedial agents of high order. If you are going to see his Materia Medica Pura and Fragmenta de Veribus, you can find that most of his provings are plant-based or vegetable-based proving. But when you see his chronic diseases, there are certain medicines being included in the chronic diseases as well. And most of the medicines in the chronic diseases, you can find they are from the mineral kingdom or they are from the inorganic cell salts present in the body. Like, for example, calcarea carb, natrium muriaticum, natrium carbonicum, kali carbonica, silicea, all these salt-based medicines are being proved by Dr. Hahnemann and included under chronic diseases. Okay, so he was the one who discovered that although these inorganic salts being apparently inert in their crude state, they possessed a vast storehouse of medicinal force hidden dormant, which are being brought to the surface by a process called dynamization or potentization. So it was he who first found out that these salts or inorganic salts which are inherent, which are having their powers inherent in nature, can be brought out by the process of potentization. Otherwise, natrium, silicea, nothing but table salt and flint or the sand. These are not of much use prior to Hahnemannian provings. Okay, this medicinal nature, the curative nature of these wonderful drugs are often being overseen. And it was Hahnemann who brought out these to the surface by the process of potentization, right? Now, next comes Dr. Constantine Hering. Okay, Dr. Constantine Hering has published in the Journal of Staff's Archive in 1846 that all constituents of the human body principally act on those organs wherein they have a function. All fulfill their functions when they are the cause of symptoms. He means to say that the inorganic cell salts are present everywhere in the body, but it is not present in every part of the body. Some salts are being present in some part of the organs, whereas the other salts are present in the other parts of the organ. Now, why they are having tropism or attraction towards that particular organ is because they are having some function relating to that particular organ or tissue. That is why. For example, I would say, you can take calcarea phos as an example, the calcium phosphate. You can find that the calcium phosphate is mainly located in the bones, in the enamel of the teeth. Okay, these are the two major areas whereby this calcium phosphate is being present. And why these are present in those two areas? Because they have a function. What is the function? Maintaining the structural integrity, or it is one of the hardest substance. So it helps to maintain the texture or the agility or the structural organization of this particular two hardest parts of the body. That's the enamel of the teeth and the bones of the body. And that is going to give you the strength of the skeleton. So that is why the calcarea phos or the calcium phosphate is present in this particular area. Likewise, you take calimere, for example, that is the potassium chloride. This potassium chloride is very much essential for the formation of nerve cells. That is why you can find that this potassium chloride is being present in the nervous tissues of the brain. And without calimere or without potassium chloride, no new neurons will be formed. That has been found out in the research. And that is why it is having a vital role in the nervous tissues of the brain. That is why it is present in the nervous cells of the central nervous system. So these are two examples whereby you can see that the salts are not present elsewhere in the body, but they are being present in large quantities in those areas whereby they are having a function to perform. That is what Dr. Hering has stressed, right? Now, next comes, right. Next comes Dr. Wilhelm Heinrich Schussler. Before Schussler, one more stalwart is there. That is Dr. van Grovogel. You might have heard about his name, the constitutions regarding. He was the one who described the three constitutions: carbonitrogenate constitutions, whereby the individual is having an excess of carbon and hydrogen, which is equal to the spheric miasm. Second is the hydrogenate constitution, whereby the individual is having more of hydrogen, which is equivalent to the psychotic constitution or psychotic miasm. And third is the oxygenate constitution, whereby the individual have more of an oxygen in the body, thereby resulting in a syphilitic miasm equivalence. So this was the Van Grovogel's understanding, or Van Grovogel's philosophy, or his explanation regarding the constitution, three constitutions: carbonitrogenate, hydrogenate, and oxygenate. So he was also one of the propounders who have given an extensive input regarding the importance of the inorganic salts in the body. So Dr. Schussler has taken impulse from these three stalwarts. First, Dr. Samuel Hahnemann. Second, Dr. Constantine Hering. And third was Dr. Van Grovogel. And keeping all the three theories in his mind, he has published an article for the very first time, which is called An Abridged Homeopathic Therapeutics, which was published in the German Homeopathic Journal in the March 1873. Okay, in which he has written these comments. About an year ago, I endeavored to discover by experiments on the sick if it were not possible to heal them, provided the diseases were curable at all, with those substances that are the natural, that is the physiological function remedies. He did not use the word biochemic medicine. He did not use the word tissue remedies, but instead he used the word physiological function remedies. So what he wanted to say that in 1872, probably he has discovered that in those conditions which are incurable, but those which can be cured away by medicines, I have tried to heal them, and I have healed them completely with the help of those substances which I would like to call it as physiological function remedies. So this was the first essay of Dr. Wilhelm Heinrich Schussler on the biochemic system or the tissue remedies. The first essay is the Abridged Homeopathic Therapeutics, which was published in the German Homeopathic Journal in March 1873. So he took the idea of Dr. Samuel Hahnemann, Dr. Konstantin Hering, Dr. Van Gravogel. Clear with this? Right. Next, after publishing in 1873, people did not notice much regarding his publication. Just like when Hahnemann has put his input on the 6th edition regarding the 50 millismol potency, not much people have paid heed to it, unless and until Dr. Pierre Schmidt has given a highlight regarding the use of the 50 millismol potency, an extensive essay regarding the 50 millismol potency. Right. Likewise, here, after publishing in the German Homeopathic Medical Journal in 1873 of his first essay on biochemic medicine, 5 months after his publication, Dr. Lorbacher was the one who identified that he has written something important, and he has given importance regarding his article that people should consider the critical considerations for using it in practice. Okay, and in reply to Dr. Lorbacher's critical considerations of using this physiological functional remedies, Dr. Wilhelm Schussler has written an extensive essay as a reply, okay, for the questions whatever Dr. Lorbacher has asked, and he has published the same, okay, more detailed account on this abridged system of homeopathic therapeutics in communication to the German Medical Journal, which was later translated into English and first published in the Medical Investigator in May 1873. So this is the time at which the first English translation has been published in Medical Investigator in May 1873. Soon afterwards, Dr. Konstantin Hering has found out this article, and he has written a small work which entitled The 12 Tissue Remedies Recommended for Investigation. That was regarding Dr. Konstantin Hering's small work to highlight Schussler's work on biochemic medicine, right? And thereafterwards, many edition has come, and before the death of Dr. Wilhelm Schussler, he has published the 25th German edition, which was later translated into English, and that is what we use in present time regarding the use of the tissue remedies. This is how tissue remedies origin has come. I hope this is clear with you. Now coming to the next topic, that is the theory of Schussler's biochemic medicine. Upon what theory is Schussler's biochemic medicine based on? The idea upon the biochemic therapeutics is based on the physiological fact that both the structure and vitality of the organs of the body are dependent upon certain necessary quantities and proper apportionment of its inorganic constituents. These remain after combustion of the tissues and form the ashes. Right? So when a human being is going to die away, when you're going to burn the dead body, or when you're going to go to electric cremation, when you're going to cremate the body, what we get finally is the ashes. Okay. When you're going to burn, as the Hindu custom is generally being followed, you can get the bones, you can get teeth, and if there are any rods being placed or if any tooth filling is being kept with a metal cap, then that could be found in the ashes along as well. So when you're going to send these ashes to the laboratory for finding the individual constituents, you can find the presence of certain inorganic salts present in the ashes. That means this is there inside the body from his life. Okay, and that is being there present even after his death. So this, what is the use of this salt? What is it present for? These salts play a very vital function. They are inorganic, that is why they are not being destroyed by burning them. Whereas the organic part, that is the water, the fats, the proteins, the carbohydrates, everything gets burnt away. They turn into carbon. But what is being left behind is nothing but the inorganic salts which are not being extinguished by the fire. Okay. Right. The inorganic constituents are the material basis of the organs and tissues of the body and absolutely essential for their structural integrity and functional activity. So these inorganic constituents perform two main functions in the body. One is that they are present in certain organs and tissues of the body, and they are absolutely essential for the structural integrity, that is for maintaining the structure and for performing the functions of that particular cell. So according to Schussler's theory, any disturbance in the molecular motion of these cell salts in living tissues caused by a deficiency in the requisite amount constitutes a disease. This is for that reason I have given you a basic idea of what the basic physics is, without which you cannot understand what is molecular motion. Okay, so since I have given a brief introduction of physics regarding molecular motion, what are the factors which affects the molecular motion, you can understand now very clearly that Schussler's theory says that if there is going to be any disturbance in the molecular motion of these inorganic salts in living tissues caused by a deficiency in the requisite amount, means there is no absolute deficiency, there is only relative deficiency, means the particular inorganic salt is there, but their molecular motion is not harmonious. There could be collision happening rapidly, and because of the collision it can be out of tune. Okay, that is what he tried to mean by saying that there is a disturbance in the molecular motion. Okay, and it is because of this disturbance in the molecular motion there is going to be a disease being following. Okay, and how do you correct this? You correct this by trying to reduce or trying to take away the disturbance in the molecular motion, trying to make the repair happening in the molecular motion. How do you repair it? You are going to repair it by giving those cell salts where the molecular motion is being disturbed in the dynamized form. That is what he is saying. It can be rectified and the requisite equilibrium is re-established by administering the same mineral salts in small quantities. So when the molecular motion is again becoming harmonious, what happens? The cell will try to function normally now. And when the cell tries to function normally, the disease vanishes itself. This is the basic idea behind how a biochemic medicine is acting. And what is the theory of Schussler's regarding the starting of a disease? Okay, it is called as the biochemic method because of its virtue of operation on chemical affinity in the domain of histology. If you split the words, you get two parts. One is bio, second is chemistry or chemic. Okay, bio means living tissue, cells and tissues, histology. And chemistry is what? It is based upon the inorganic chemical salts, whereby the molecular motion is being disturbed due to some reason, one or the other. Okay. And how does this biochemic medicine operate? Okay, tissue remedies act by supplying deficiencies. Generally, this is what we usually are being trained away. Okay, if there is going to be anemia, it is because of the reduction in the iron, and you try to supplement with ferrum phos 6x or ferrum phos 12x or ferrum phos 3x. This is what has been learned by, this is what has been taught to us, but this is completely wrong. And second, if suppose there is going to be any bone disorders, there is going to be a fracture, or there is going to be any kind of osteoporosis or osteoarthritis, what do we write? Calcarea phos 6x. What for? It will try to supply the calcium and phosphate which the bone is losing away, and it will try to fill up the gaps. This is what has been taught to us, but it is wrong. Okay, your body is losing calcium in milligrams, and you are trying to supply the calcium which is losing in milligrams with nanoparticles or with micrograms even. Okay, how will that cope up? If the loss is in milligrams, you have to supply in milligrams only. Then only the loss will be compensated. But here what is happening? The loss is happening in milligrams or grams even. Okay, but what you're trying to supplement is micrograms. How can that equate? So this is what has been taught wrongly, that tissue remedies act by supplying the deficiencies. This is completely wrong. This is against the philosophy of Dr. Wilhelm Schussler. Okay, right. Now what is the real philosophy behind Schussler's finding the biochemic medicine? That has been given here as example. If in any disturbance of molecules of natrium ure, that is common salt, there is not necessarily a deficiency in the amount of natrium ure in the body, but rather a lack in the continuity in the arrangement of the existing molecules of the body. That means, that is what means there is a disturbance in the molecular motion of natrium ure. That is why the individual develops natrium ure kind of symptoms, which can be identified by the case checking. And once you have identified that natrium ure is out of tune in the body, that is why it is exhibiting the symptoms. By collecting those symptoms, you are going to supplement it, trying to realign the molecular motion by giving the diluted part of natrium ure as the lower triturations. This is the basic of their prescription. Okay, this salt given as a remedy does not supply the lack of deficiency of salt. as the quantity given is usually too infinitesimal for the purpose. And where this is the case, it might be given in quantity with food or drink and the desired effect. Everyone is taking salt in their food. Why can't this deficiency be compensated? It cannot be compensated because there is no absolute deficiency in the salt. Rather, the salt molecules are out of tune, or their molecular motion is out of tune, the disturbance. That is why they are developing natriuretic kind of symptoms. And this would be only fulfilled when natriuretic is being given in the infinitesimal dose, not in the material doses, just like you put common salt on the food and take it away. Or you put common salt in a glass of lassi or a charge or the buttermilk and you take it away. In this way, it is not working out. Yeah, to touch the secret spring, you have to give it in the secret spring, means in the infinitesimal dose. That is what he is trying to say. Okay. So the deficiency that it does supply in minimal doses is the arrangement of the equilibrium of the chain of natriuretic molecules in the affected tissues as before explained, thus causing them to perform their functions properly. For since the deficit is a molecular one, the supply must also be molecular. Since the disturbance is happening in the molecular level, that is in the microparticles or nanoparticles, then you have to treat it in the same plane, that is in the nanoparticle level or the microparticular level. That is why you're giving it the dynamized form. You're not giving it the crude form. Clear? Now, there is some topic called tissue building. So for tissues to build up, there should be two necessities. One is the organic constituent and second is inorganic constituent. So among the organic constituents, what are the examples? You have sugar or glucose, fat, albuminous substances or the protein in the blood, which serves the physical basis of the tissues for building up, for the structure of the tissues. While the water and salts, namely the potash, that is the kali, lime, calcarea, silica, iron or ferrum, magnesia, and sodium are the inorganic substances which are believed to determine the particular kind of cell to be built up. So the permutation and combination of these particular inorganics will determine which type of a cell is going to be formed. There are nephrons, there are neurons, there are hepatocytes, okay, there are splenic sinusoidal cells, okay, there are multiple types of cells. There are RBCs, there are WBCs, there are platelets even. The function of each and every cell is completely different. Okay, one is filtering the urine, one is conducting the nerve impulses, one is trying to fight against the enemies, one is trying to supply the oxygen, okay, one is trying to prevent the clotting from happening. One is the hepatocyte performs multivarious function. It has more than 500 functions. So likewise, the functions of each and every cell is different. And this type of cell will be determined by the permutation and combination of all these inorganic substances, such as potash, lime, silica, iron, magnesium, and sodium. Whereas these three substances, the organic, the glucose, the fat, and the albumin is present in each and every cell only. It is not divided of all these three things. But what can be differing is the proportion with which the inorganic substances are being present in the body. Okay. Apart from these, there are other cells. There are other inorganic salts which may from time to time be coming and going away. But these salts will be constantly present in that particular cell. Right? Whenever in the animal kingdom new cells are being generated or formed, there must be present in sufficient quantity and proper relation both these organic and inorganic substances. So these two, organic and the inorganic substances, if they are present in the proper proportions only, then only the structural integrity and the functional activity of a cell can be performed. Okay. By their presence in the blood, all the organs, viscera and tissues of the body are formed, fixed and made permanent in their functions, and a disturbance here causes a disturbed function. So the disease always starts at the cellular level and it is slowly progressing to the tissues, organs, organ systems, and then the whole organism, so that the human body is sick. So if you are going to rectify the changes or the impairments which is happening at the cellular level, then you can prevent a major mishap from happening. So this is the basic of biochemic system of medicine, right? Now, what is the evidence I put forward for shoeless biochemic method? Recent experiments made by Dr. Professor Loeb seem to prove that the various tissue cells will rapidly disintegrate in the absence of the proper proportion of sodium, potassium, and lime salts in the circulating fluid. So in a circulating fluid, these three salts should be present in the proper proportion. The ratio being 100 molecules of sodium, 2.2 molecules of potassium, and 1.5 molecules of lime. If this proportion is being changed, then the tissue breaks up or the cell breaks up. There will be disintegration, there will be degeneration. That much essential is the proportion. It should neither be more, it should never be less. This proportion should be maintained at any cost. Then only the integrity of the particular cell and the intercellular fluid will be maintained. Otherwise, it will be disintegrated. Okay. the maintenance of a stable metabolism within the cell is due to the presence of these salts in proper ratio in the fluid which surrounds the cell. Any upset of this proportion, that's 100 molecule of sodium, 2.2 molecule of potassium, or 1.5 molecule of lime, may lead to physiological disturbance and thereby disease. So by molecular motion disturbance, the proportion is getting out of tune. And when this proportion is getting out of tune, then disease happens. So this is the basic of Schuster's biochemic method, which has been supported by Dr. Professor Loeb, who is a professor of the biochemistry, right? Now you can see the constitution of the blood. The human blood is having two parts, plasma and the formed elements. Plasma is the liquid part, formed elements is the solid part of the blood. 55% is the plasma, 45% is the formed elements. Plasma contains proteins, water, and other solutes, which forms the organic components. And the formed elements, platelets, leukocytes, erythrocytes forms the organic components or the formed elements. Okay. And in the other solutes, you can find that there are inorganic constituents, and they are classified under two headings. One is cations and second is anions. Okay. Cations include sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, iron, and anions include sulfates, phosphates, bicarbonates, chlorides. So if any ion is going to get an electron, then it becomes an anion. If any ion is going to lose an electron, it becomes a cation. Okay, minus and plus. Okay, so always you write Na plus, okay, K plus, Ca2 plus, Mg2 plus, Fe2 plus. So that means depending upon the number of electrons being lost away, then you can get the negative charges. And depending upon the gain, you can get the negative charge on top. So these are cations and anions, right? These are the inorganic constituents of the blood. Now you can see how these inorganic salts are being distributed in different parts of the body. If you see the nerve cells contain magnesia phosphorica, kali phosphorica, natrum, ferrum, calcarea phosphorica, that is calcium phosphate in the minimal quantity. But if you see the muscle cells, you can see that it is having all of the above together with kali muriatica. And if you see the connective tissue, you can see that silicea is there as addition to other cells, other inorganic salts. I told you kali mu, right? I'm sorry, kindly correct. The nerve cells of the brain cannot able to regenerate without the presence of kali phosphorica, that is potassium phosphate. It is not kali mu, that is not potassium chloride, it is kali phos. Kindly rectify. I am just correcting my mistake what I have said in the previous slides. And second, if you see the bone cells, it contains abundance of calcarea phosphorica, magnesia phosphorica, calcarea fluorica. If you see the cartilage and mucous cells, it contains natrium muriatica. If you see hair and crystalline lens, it contains iron in addition to others. In elastic tissue, we have an abundance of calcarea fluorica. So this is how these salts are being distributed in the body, whereby there is having a structural integrity and function. Right now, what is the concept of health, disease, and cure according to the biochemical system of medicine? Now here I have given you a cell which is in a healthy state, which means every molecule is being present in their proper molecular motion. There is no disturbance, and now it is in the harmonious state, and it is performing the functions assigned to that particular cell very efficiently. Okay. Now, what's a disease? Disease happens if any of these inorganic salts being present in the harmonious state is going out of tune. That is, if there is going to be any disturbance in the molecular motion. In that case, it is there, but it is not there where it should be present. It is roaming somewhere else because of head-on collisions happening due to increase in the molecular motion. In that case, so what happens? It is going out of tune. There is a disturbance in the molecular motion. So when there is going to be disturbance in the molecular motion, what happens? Pathogenesis so happens, and the cell now becomes a diseased cell. You can see there is a loss of natrium and chloride, that is sodium and chloride, which has gone out of tune due to disturbance in the molecular motion. Now, how to rectify this according to the biochemical system of medicine? You are going to take the case of the patient. You are trying to identify the symptoms and signs the patient exhibits. With that symptoms and signs, you are trying to understand that the patient is having a deficiency, that is a relative deficiency or disturbance in the molecular motion of natrium muriaticum. That is why they are developing these kind of symptoms. And with that, how do you rectify the molecular motion disturbance? You are going to supplement it with the help of the potentized form or lower saturations of sodium chloride, which is lacking in the patient, and so that the health is being retained, or the molecular motion which is disturbed comes to the harmonious state, and now the cell is performing normally. So this is how you try to cure. This is the modus operandi of cure according to the biochemical system of medicine, right? You are through with this, right? Now, minuteness is the key. That is the next topic. I think the time is almost up. Shall I stop with this? We can continue the remaining in the next session, probably.
Yes.
Kindly, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Since it's a big topic, I would like to kindly continue this in the next class, because I don't want to complete in a haphazard manner. I want it to be perfect in all the way possible. That's why. So I'm stopping my sharing right now. Let's meet again in the next class. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. Or if anyone wants to comment, kindly comment, please. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Balachandran, for a very nice session. And he explained all the modus operandi of the biochemical medicine, how they are working inside the cells in the body. And if anybody has some questions, they can definitely ask and raise their hands.
Regarding only the topic what I have discussed today, you can have many doubts regarding biochemic medicine. In the next class, we can see a detailed description. But in today's class, till the lecture what I have taken, the topic, if you have any doubts, you can kindly ask.
Yes, Dr. Danesh wants to ask Dr. Balachandran. Yes.
Yes, Dr. Danesh.
Good evening, Dr. Balin. It's really a very good session. You really showed how scientifically homeopathic medicine, biochemic medicine is right. But the content of your presentation was really excellent. And this is how we need to show the world that homeopathy has a scientificity behind every work what we do in our clinic. As you
Dr. Danesh, I would like to correct you. This is not homeopathic actually. Biochemic is something different.
Yes,
although the idea is taken from homeopathy.
Yes.
Before the death of Dr. William Schussler, he has diverted his path and he said that biochemic medicine is nowhere related to homeopathy. He declared it to be a separate therapeutic system.
Yes, sir. Then
in forthcoming classes, I will explain you how it is differing from homeopathy and why it is not homeopathy.
Yes, sir.
This is a separate therapeutic system. Yeah.
Anyway, that really give us an idea how it works in our body. That's something great, because everybody believe that it is just like adding the vitamin deficiency, complementing like that. But it is not a complementary medicine, as you rightly pointed out. The same intensity of the molecule in the disease, as well as the same intensity of the medicine in biochemic, that really works.
Yeah, you get that part right.
Yes,
and,
sir.
I think there are certain people who are raising their hands. Dr. Ram Pravesh Shah, Dr. Hariharan.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dr. D.BALACHANDRAN, sir.
Thank you.
Very nice, excellent session. Difference between homeopathic system of medicine and biochemic system of medicine.
That will be the next class, sir. I could not able to complete because the topic is vast.
So biochemic system of medicine recognized of any country, any state, recognized system of medicine.
It is recognized all over the world, sir, but we don't have separate degree courses for biochemic medicine. This has been included in the syllabus of BHMS students in the Materia Medica. Okay, so when you are going to the 3rd or 4th year, probably we have a question in probably essays regarding the biochemic medicine. There are no degrees being provided like homeopathy, like we have a separate degree called BHMS, right? Likewise, we don't have a separate degree for biochemic system of medicine, but it is generally taken as a complementary medicine to the practitioners. Likewise, like those who practice on bachelor remedies, they can use biochemic. Those who practice on homeopathy can use biochemic medicines. There are no specific degree courses relating to the biochemic system of medicine. It is not a complete system, just like homeopathy.
कभी कभी किसी स्टेट में या किसी टाउन में देख रहे हैं कि बायोकेमिक थेरापी का कॉलेज खुली हुई है।
नहीं होगा, पता नहीं, अपने इंडिया में तो नहीं है सर।
नहीं, सुपौल में मेरा बिहार स्टेट में सुपौल में एक कॉलेज खोले हुए हैं, जो कि
मेरा भी है सर।
हाँ, बिहार तो आप एम्स में है ही, कॉलेज खोली हुई है और वो डिग्री बांटता है प्राइवेट यूनिवर्सिटी के
नहीं, आप क्या कीजिए ना, उसका RTI कीजिएगा. You kindly go for RTI, right to information. Kindly find out whether this college has been recognized by the university, and if they are not having proper approval, then the degree is not valid, sir. It is only for the मतलब लोग को उल्लू बनाने का काम, और कुछ नहीं.
कितना बार तो पेपर में भी छपा है इसका, डिग्री जो बंद कर देता फिर डिग्री बांटता है लोग को.
लोग लालच में कर लेते हैं, उसके बाद पता चलता है वो डिग्री वैलिड नहीं है.
हाँ, कितना डॉक्टर खोले हुए हैं यहाँ पर, 5-6 डॉक्टर हैं इलेक्ट्रो होम्योपैथिक करके खोले हुए हैं, बायोकेमिक थेरापी करके खोले हुए हैं.
इलेक्ट्रो होम्योपैथी अलग है, बायोकेमिक मेडिसिन अलग है सर, दोनों का कंफ्यूजन मत कीजिएगा, दोनों अलग अलग.
दोनों का हम बता रहे हैं कि दोनों का जो, जबकि रिकॉग्नाइज्ड सिस्टम ऑफ मेडिसिन नहीं है ना, not electro-homeopathic, not biochemic
Yeah, आप
therapy.
एक बार RTA करा के देखिएगा जो कॉलेज सुपौल में खुला है, then you can get more details regarding this. Thank you, sir.
ठीक, thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Hariharan can now unmute himself. Dr.
Yeah.
Hariharan.
Okay, sir. Your
Yes.
class is scientifically very good. Really, I am appreciating. But I have a doubt. In the class on beginning, you said that deficiency is not be corrected by potentized chemicals. But last time you said that can be corrected by potentized salt.
No,
I
see,
do
that's
not
what
understand.
I'm not saying that there is absolute deficiency. There is a difference between that.
What is
Absolute
that?
deficiency means the sodium is not there in the body only. For example, I will say you, if there is going to be an osteoporosis, what happens in osteoporosis? The bones are getting rid of the calcium and phosphates, and these are being excreted in the urine, right? So what is happening there? There is going to be absolute deficiency of calcium and phosphate. If you're going to check the calcium level in the blood, you can find that the calcium level is less.
Okay.
So how do you try to treat it when you're going to the allopathic doctor? What they give you Shelcal 500.
Okay.
Shelcal 500 is what? That's a calcium tablets which is being given in the 500 milligrams. That is in the crude part. So what this medicine does, when the individual is going to take Shelcal 500, okay, it is going to get to the gut. It is going to get absorbed. This calcium circulates in the bloodstream. It is going to go and remain there in those parts of the body whereby the calcium phosphate is deficient. This is their method of treatment, right? We don't do the same in homeopathy. You know, we are not supplementing in the milligrams level. We are giving calcarea phos in 6x, 12x, probably in other potencies even. And this calcarea phos is not only given for bony complaints, right? When you read the biochemic drug picture or the biochemic therapeutics of calcarea phos, apart from bone complaints, it has many complaints even. Okay. So whenever a patient is going to come with a disease, you are trying to take the case of the patient. Okay. By case taking, you are going to get a totality of symptoms. With a totality, you are trying to find out which of these inorganic salt is being out of tune in the body. That means there is a disturbance happening in the molecular level.
Okay.
Disturbance in the molecular motion, as I have stated here. Okay. After finding out, you are going to supply the disturbed molecular element in the diluted or in the triturated form of the biochemic medicine, so that it is going to rectify the disturbance in the molecular motion. It is going to fill the gap, and then the cell starts functioning properly. This is how the biochemic medicine acts. It is, of course, trying to change the disturbance. It is not like it is not working. It is not going to change the disturbance in the molecular motion. Only thing, it is not supplementing the deficient inorganic salts. Rather, it is trying to only supply the deficient or the disturbed molecules of those salt which has been out of tune, so that the harmony is being achieved. समझ में आ रहा है आपको? मतलब can you understand, Hariharan sir?
Okay, sir. And another doubt is that along with the allopathy, they are giving the salt in their doses, and we are giving the along with this calcarea phos along with the potentized form. This it will create a harmony and absorption easy to the body. Is it so?
Their concept of treating the disease is something different. If suppose the body can able to absorb the calcium which is there, okay, by giving our medicine, what it does, it will try to regulate the absorption of this particular inorganic salts. Normally we take calcium from the food, right?
Okay.
Not everyone can able to absorb the calcium, or we might take calcium in the very limited form. Some people might be there who are very strict in diet, that they don't take meat, they don't take milk, they don't take dairy products. Okay, from where they can get calcium. So in that cases, there will be need of supplying calcium. That is what allopathic doctor does. They are trying to find out their diet. They are finding that they are having a deficiency in the intake of calcium. That is why they are supplying it with the Shelcal 500. No.
Okay.
And when we give, what happens? The natural tendency of the body to absorb the calcium from the diet is being enhanced. If you can read the Kent's lecture, he would say you cannot build a mole out of the you cannot build a mountain of the moles. In calcarea carb, it has been given. You are giving calcarea carb in a very diluted form, so that you cannot, the calcarea carb cannot able to give you all the calcium what the body requires. But what it does is that it tries to regulate the absorption or the assimilation of the calcium, so that the body is trying to rectify this particular deficiency. That's what it does.
Okay,
I hope
thank
I'm
you.
clear,
Yeah.
Dr. Hariharan.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Now I am here clear, but I have a lot of doubts. But the
Yeah,
time is
Dr. Hariharan, actually we are having time is over,
Time-
sir. So
time
we
is
can
less.
have more
Time is
doubts in the next session. And I guess Dr. Balachandran has a quite, a knowledge base about the biochemical medicine. We can also have another session from him about
Yeah.
the detailed methodology and how the biochemic medicines are working in our body, and what is the difference between the allopathic medicines and the homeopathic medicine. I guess the basic differences of the molecular structure. So we can have one more session on this topic where we can explain this in detail.
Yes.
And it was a quite a knowledgeable session from Dr. D. Balachandran. As our time is over, now we can have many more sessions in our next lectures. And now I would hand over the session to Dr. P. Shaila for the Malayalam session. Hope all the doctors had a nice time today. We'll meet again tomorrow with our next section. Good night to all. Thank you
Good
very
night.
much.
Thank you, Dr. Nehar. Thank you, Dr. Danish. We'll meet again in some other session. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Neha.